Just, yeah, well, that's right.
Our live stream will begin in 1 minute and the service in 2 minutes. Once we start the live stream, everything you say will be heard by everybody at home. Okay, Dylan. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We want to welcome everyone here in the sanctuary and, of course, everyone at home on this Shabbat. We want to offer a special welcome to Naomi Slater, to her family and friends, as we gather to celebrate tomorrow morning her bat mitzvah. Naomi is what I call the leadoff hitter for the spring season of B'nai Mitzvah that is coming up, the first in her class, though she's the youngest, at the same time. The Cantor asked me if I would be noting the fact that this happens to be St. Patrick's Day as well. I told him, well, not really. However, since he brought it up and since I was thinking about it, I will tell you two things. The two pieces of trivia in honor of St. Patrick's Day and Shabbat beginning now. The first is I was curious, so I looked up how many Jews live in Ireland, having been in Ireland, a beautiful country, and the answer is about 2,000. It's been 5 times that number earlier in the 20th century, It has declined, but now is holding steady. And here's the other interesting thing. The current president, not prime minister, president of the state of Israel is named Isaac Herzog. His father, Chaim Herzog, is a former president, first president of the state of Israel, but his grandfather, for whom he named, was the chief rabbi of Israel at the time of its founding 75 years ago. But you know what he was before he became chief rabbi of Israel? He was chief rabbi of Ireland.
Yeah.
And his son, the first president of the state of Israel, spoke English with an Irish accent. So how about that? So now you've learned some Irish Jewish trivia for St. Patrick's Day. This is a changing of the seasons. I mentioned the spring season. Actually, spring will officially begin on Monday at 5:26 p.m. And next week on Thursday is a different beginning. It's the beginning of the month of Nisan, which actually in the biblical calendar is the first month. And if it's the first of Nisan next Thursday, that means that 2 weeks later, at the full moon, will be the holiday of Pesach. So we know that Pesach is about 3 weeks away now as we greet this spring season. And so with that, let's begin with a nigun, like we did last week, a wordless melody to help us get into the spirit of this near spring Shabbat. For the blessing of the Shabbat candles, we turn to page 3 and invite Naomi and her mother and father to lead us here.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Together, O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts, May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Let's join together in the blessing on the previous page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Our welcome of the Shabbat continues with the singing of Lecha Dodi on page 20. To the synagogue to dramatize our welcome of Shabbat. Standing for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, page 28. be seated. I mentioned earlier the changing of the seasons, and that's actually part of the subject of the prayer, the first prayer in between the Baruch Hu and the Shema. On page 31, praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Rabbi. From the world around us to the world within us, Ahabat Olam, page 32. Ahabat Olam, Beit Yisrael. Naomi will lead us now in the Shema and the V'ahavta, page 34.
ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Good job. Even though the upcoming holiday of Pesach is all about our liberation, we actually remember that great moment of going from slavery to freedom at every service when we sing the next prayer, Mi Chamocha, page 40. A member of the congregation surprised me this week when they said to me, I'm really in need of a Hashkivenu moment. And I knew exactly what they meant. They were saying that they needed a good night's sleep. Because the next prayer, the Hashkivenu prayer, on page 42, that's exactly how it begins. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. It's a prayer for a good night's sleep, among other things. We sing it together now. Hashkivenu Adonai
Schwartz
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom
v'hamitenu
L'Shalom
עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Page 44, the people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. Prayer that links our faith to the faith of our ancestors, page 46. Please rise.
Shivaruha, Umori HaKashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mekayeh HaKol Merachamim Rami, Somech Nofalim Verofeh Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayeh Emunato, Vishene Afar, Nichamocha Bagehurot, Umitonela, Melech Menit, Umechayeh, Umatzniach Yeshua, Bnei Manatan HaChayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yamenu tasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh.
Please be seated. Reading together on the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. On page 59, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulachem ha'eh lehodot. This section of prayer ends with the Shalom Rav, the prayer of great peace, on page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. Ki atah hu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atah hu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. V'tom enecha le'larech et amcha Yisrael, v'kol el v'kol shah yishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Taslim Leolam. Taslim Leolam. Taslim Leolam.
Now at the end of the Amidah, our thoughts turn to those of our loved ones in need of healing, be this a healing of body or a healing of soul. In our congregational family, we think especially this week of Kurt Roberg. And as we bring to mind all of our loved ones in need of healing, we join with the Cantor in the healing prayer. The Torah portion reminds us once again to bring the goodwill offering of our hearts to help build the community, in this case the community centered around the tabernacle in the desert. The expression is Kol Nadiv Libo. Everyone whose heart makes them willing should contribute to the community. As we pause now, we think about how our own hearts can become more willing for us to contribute to our family and to our communities. We pause. This week we come to the end of the book of Exodus in the annual cycle of the reading of the Torah. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning Naomi will chant the very last verses from the book of Exodus. And every year when we study the book of Exodus, as we've been doing in Torah study on Shabbat morning each week, something different may stand out to you. And I was struck this year, once again, reading the book of Exodus, how it's truly a tale of two books. There's the first half of the book of Exodus, which is epic narrative. It's the story we know so well, the story that we will repeat at our Pesach Seders. It's the story of going from slavery to freedom, and it's the story of Moses and Aaron and Miriam rallying the people. And it has tremendous narrative drive, and the tension and the drive forward is palpable from Egypt all the way to Mount Sinai. And that occupies the first half of the book of Exodus. And then the second half, basically after Sinai and after the golden calf incident, is like a completely different book. It's boring in comparison to the first half, although Naomi will tell you tomorrow actually why it's so interesting to her, all the lists, because there's one list after another of how you set up the tabernacle, how you break it down, how you furnish it, everything connected to the building of this portable tabernacle, this kind of shrine with a Bedouin tent around it that the Israelites assembled and disassembled all the way through their wanderings for the next 40 years. But it's filled with minute detail. It just has a different feel, and it's a different literary genre. So how do you explain this? Well, nobody has definitively explained this at all, but one academic explanation is that, hey, there were two different writers. There was what is known in source theory today, modern critical source theory. There was the J, or perhaps the J and E writers responsible for the narrative portion, and then you have the P, the priestly writers, the school of the priest, who then put in all this ritual detail which is of interest to them and makes who look good? The priest, the Levites. The Levites. Remember, they didn't have any land. They were itinerant teachers, and they needed a gig, a job all the time. And so if the temple, which is the successor to the tabernacle, it needs administration, it needs all the rituals, the Levites are going to be doing that. They're going to be teaching the people all the laws as well. So one possibility is, you do have two different books here, written by two different authors, or at least schools of scribal authors. But traditionalists don't accept that explanation, and they will look for a theological reason for this. And for them, it's rather apparent once you look and contemplate this. That is, the people were a bit in disarray after the golden calf incident, after the high of Sinai, then the low of the golden calf. And how were the people going to manage a group of Egyptian slaves who weren't exactly expert in navigating the desert, having never been outside of the Nile River Valley? How are they going to make their way for a generation until they eventually get to the promised land? They needed spiritual support. They needed a gathering place like we do today. And so they built this to continue to sense God in their presence, to be inspired, to give them faith. And for that reason, you get all the details regarding the tabernacle. And when you stop and think about it, the description of the tabernacle is an echo of what happened at Mount Sinai. And even today, the synagogue, which is based on the temple, which is based on the tabernacle, it has a raised platform called the Bima. That's the mountain. When you come up, as the family will tomorrow, Naomi's family, to bless the Torah, what is that called? An aliyah, an ascent of the mountain. What's behind me? It's the tip of Mount Sinai, if you never realized that before. It's Moses' Torah, the Ten Commandments, but now in the form of a scroll with the entirety of the Torah right behind, just as Moses brought it down from the mountain. And what's above me? We read the commandment a few weeks ago in Exodus. It's an eternal light. What was described? Thunder and lightning above the mountain during the time of Revelation. So if you never stopped and thought about it, the synagogue, like the temple, like the tabernacle, is a recreation of the Sinai experience. And you all are the ancient Israelites at the base of the mountain. So it's a tale of two books. And at the same time, I kind of realized this year too, it's a tale of two people. It's the same people. It's the Israelites. But what do I mean by that? It's a tale of the Israelites at their best, and it's a tale of the Israelites at their worst. And here's the thing. They keep on vacillating. When Moses first came to the Israelites in Egypt and pronounced the great moment of liberation, you know what the Torah says? They didn't pay any attention. They didn't listen to him at all. They tuned him out. If you were a slave and you were under that oppression, and somebody came along and said, today's your day of freedom, would you necessarily believe, yeah, we got work to do? But then they began to listen, and they began to rally around Moses. And when the people actually, after the plagues, started en masse to move out, the Torah says that they were unified and driven, and they plunged into the waters, and they came out the other side, and they moved on to Sinai as one. They assembled at the base of the mountain. They initially said, everything that we hear, we will do. And all seemed wonderful. And then Moses was gone a little bit too long. They began to lose faith. We read it 2 weeks ago in Torah study, and we read how dire it was because they produced the golden calf, they denied responsibility, they turned to idolatry. Moses is so angry, God is so angry, the tablets are smashed, they're ground up, and Moses makes the people drink the ground up tablet. And it was not Alka-Seltzer. It goes from bad to worse when the Levites rallied people against each other, and essentially a miniature civil war breaks out. So things are at a really low point, and then slowly but surely the people rise again. Because when Moses brings to them the idea of the tabernacle and asks for every willing heart to participate, everybody volunteers. Everybody gives whatever they can give. Some had money, some had time, whatever it may be, and they built it. And they rallied around it, and they were determined to follow Moses. Were things perfect all through those years? No, up and down. Once again, dissension, cohesion, and unity. So, in conclusion, what are we to make of a tale of two books and a tale of two people? We know from our own experience, people, individuals, but also communities and countries can go from the best to the worst, like this. and then they can go back again. That's the unpredictability of human nature as individuals, and even more so magnified by the communities. The people can become a mob. So we understand this, and what does it lead us? Does it lead us to hope or to despair? It depends on when you ask the question. There's a Hebrew expression that comes from our sources, Gam ze ya'avor. This too shall pass. When you think you've seen the worst of it, don't lose faith. Don't lose hope, because it will pass. But you know what? When you're very high and happy, that's good. But that too will pass. And there may be, just like the stock market, if any of you have investments in that. I'm trying not to get despairing about that situation right now. This too shall pass. We constantly have to strive to be the best that we can, and I think that that's the final lesson. The Torah, the book of Exodus, gives us a sage piece of advice. How can you be your best? Which you're not going to be all the time, but how can you strive for that? Remember the times that you were the best. That's what the tabernacle was about, and the temple after that, and the synagogue after that. By remembering the high moment of Sinai, hopefully it will sustain you during the more difficult and challenging times. To be the best, remember the best. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Are Emma and Gabby in this sacred house of gathering? They are. I call them forward to open the ark, Naomi as well, as we now turn to the Aleinu prayer, the bottom of page 282. As we open the ark, please rise. We need you by the microphone for the live stream. The bottom, yeah.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גאולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל העולם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבוהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל אלוהיך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ
As we remain standing, our thoughts turn to those of our loved ones recently taken from our midst. Vince Priblo, husband of Jody, father of Justin, Dylan, and Matt, and Myra Ann Schulman, sister of Annette DeMarco. For all those close to our hearts and for all those for whom there may be no one to say Kaddish, we join in the Kaddish prayer on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbi be'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei b'hayechon u'yomechon uvchaye d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'galav b'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbi mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'elam mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata amiran ve'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'hayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'mroma, hu ya'asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Please be seated as I invite forward for greetings and announcements the president of our congregation.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was a wonderful sermon, very interesting on so many levels. It was a good teaching. And student Cantor, Joe Flaxman, as always, beautiful service. And I bet you're excited. Tomorrow, one of your students is being bat mitzvah. And
My best student.
they're all your best.
Until the next one.
They're all your
one.
best. They're all the
She's
best.
doing great. She's doing great.
Okay, and if you haven't guessed by now, tomorrow morning we celebrate the bat mitzvah of Naomi Slater beginning at 10 a.m. Now, Naomi has been a member of Adas Emuno her entire life, right? And her mother, Rebecca, served on the board of trustees, and her father, David, is currently a board member. Just for the people out there, tomorrow's service will be live streamed. So you'll catch it at 10 a.m. The Torah study group will not be meeting tomorrow as a result. The Adas Emuno Book Club will be meeting via Zoom on Monday, May 8th. The club will be discussing Dinner with Ruth by Nina Totenberg. And everyone is invited to join our book club, which focuses on Jewish-themed books. Members of the book club knew Ruth Bader Ginsburg as a close friend, a classmate, or a law professor. On Saturday, April 1st, Adas Emuno, Temple Sinai, and Temple Emeth will be holding a Shabbaton at Temple Sinai in Tenafly. At 9 a.m., there'll be discussion of the ill-fated Talmudic sage, Rabbi Elisha ben Abuya, who is the subject of an historical novel, As a Driven Leaf, based on the rabbi's tragic struggle with his faith. A Shabbat service follows at 10:30, led by our fabulous student cantors Joe Flaxman and Iris Collin.
Checks in the mail.
Yes, and lunch follows the service. A high point of the Shabbaton begins at 7:30. Is it 7:30? 7:30 in the evening with the performance of the play As a Driven Leaf, based on the historical novel, written by our own Rabbi Barry Schwartz. A dessert reception will follow the play. Come congratulate the playwright on the New Jersey premiere of the play. The Shabbaton is free, but registration is required. The best way to register is to email Rabbi Schwartz. As you know, we are bringing back the second night Passover Seder this year on Thursday, April 6th. There's still an opportunity to come to the Seder, but please sign up soon because we are limited to 40 attendees. Our Social Action Committee, led by Annette DeMarco, is presently collecting hot cereal packages, canned fruits and vegetables, and any other non-perishable food. Just leave it on the school porch in the bins. In addition, we're still collecting baby diapers, which are always in need. Tonight's Oneg is sponsored by proud parents Rebecca Kine-Slater and David Slater in honor of the bat mitzvah tomorrow of their daughter Naomi. Now, it's downstairs. Don't take 40 years to get down there or you'll finish all the chocolate cake. Once again, we thank Dylan Preblo for live streaming tonight's service on YouTube. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Actually, when you get downstairs, there's wine or grape juice and challah, so please wait for us to do the blessings together before we enjoy the Oneg Shabbat. Our service will close with the singing of a classic song of Shabbat, Adon Olam, on page 327. Oops, not 327.
321.
321. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.